will be discussing activity in the nervous system. The objectives of this lab discussion is as follows. First, we identify the major parts of the brain. Second, we determine the reason why the cerebellum of the toad is smaller compared to those found in the birds and animals. And third, we discuss the 12 pairs of cranial nerves in humans, the functions and its types. Before we proceed to the main course, we will be reviewing first a quick overview of the concept of nervous system. As we have learned this system on frogs, they are very similar to studying our body systems too. Nervous system is basically an organ system that controls all body functions. It is mainly classified into two: central, which is the receiver, and the peripheral, which is the carrier of the message. The central nervous system is mainly classified into two, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord. The two consisting nodes in the peripheral nervous system are somatic for voluntary action and autonomic for involuntary. Additionally, the autonomic nervous system consists of sympathetic, famous for its fight or flight process in the brain, and parasympathetic that calms our body. And now we will go with the identification and its parts.
Identification and its functions. First, the spinal nerve of the toad. Second would be the dorsal aspect of the brain of the toad. And third, the cross-section of the spinal cord. Starting with the first one, the spinal nerve of the toad. The spinal nerve comes from each vertebrae. In general, it functions to the arm, neck, shoulder, dorsal body wall, and hind leg. Next is the sympathetic region of the network, which is part of the autonomic nervous system and regulates many involuntary functions. Lastly, the vertebra that snips through each side of the vertebra between the neutral spine and the articular process. Second would be the dorsal aspect of the brain of the toad. This is the cerebellum, which serves as the balance of the brain's toad, the optic lobes that represents the midbrain, that helps in coordinating response to the visual inputs. Next is the epiphysis, an extended end of the long bone. A small part that is most likely hidden from the view is called the cerebellum. The third ventricle produces cerebrospinal fluid. And lastly, the olfactory bulb and the nerve are both responsible for the sense of smell. Proceeding to the third part, the cross-section of the spinal cord. Focusing on the gray matter, the dorsal horn receives signals from all areas of the body. In the center, the cerebrospinal fluid fills space that runs through the spinal cord is called central canal. Lastly, the anterior gray column is the front column of gray matter in the spinal cord.
Next, we will proceed with the guide questions and the activity. First, what could be the reason why the cerebellum of the frog or the toad is relatively smaller compared to those found in birds and mammals? Well, we all know that the cerebellum is part of the brain that provides functions and controls of body activity. A frog has smaller cerebellum because the body structure and organ development are less complex or very simple, so it requires a smaller cerebellum. Next question is the number of the spinal nerves in frog tadpoles is 40 pairs as opposed to the number of spinal nerves in the adult frog. What possible factors could dictate the number of the spinal nerves in animals? Spinal nerves are a segment of the peripheral nervous system because they transfer information among the brain, spinal cord, and the rest of the body. The number of spinal nerves is related to the number of vertebrae from which their nerve roots emerge from the spinal cord, and some factors may regulate them. Also, potential variables that might govern or impact the number of spinal nerves in animals include developmental gene expression patterns and differential gene expression regulation throughout embryo development.
The third question would be, unlike amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, including humans, had 12 pairs of cranial nerves instead of 10 pairs. Research on the 12 pairs of cranial nerves in the humans. Fill up the table below by classifying them whether they are purely sensory, afferent, or purely motor, afferent, or mixed nerves. Indicate their function and innervation as well. Starting with the cranial nerve olfactory, which is a sensory type, has the ability of smell. Next would be the optic nerve, which is a sensory that has the ability to see, or the vision. The accumulator is a motor type, which has the ability to move your eyes up and down or back and forth. The cranial nerve, which is a motor nerve, has a sensation in your face and the cheeks, face and jaw movements. The abducent nerve is a motor type and has the ability to move your eyes. The facial nerve has both senses and has the ability of facial expression and sense of taste. The vestibular nerve has the sense of hearing and balance, which is a sensory type. The glossopharyngeal is both type and which is responsible for the ability to taste and swallow, which includes the throat sensation. The vagus nerve has the ability to digest and the heart rate, which is also both type. The accessory nerve or the spinal accessory nerve is a motor type and which has the ability of shoulder and neck movements, and the hypoglossal nerve has the ability to move your tongue, which is also a motor type.
And that will be the end of the laboratory discussion number 14.